Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Rantoinette. We got a lot of stories to get into today. Over 100 dead in Texas due to the huge flood that happened in Central Texas. The billionaire bailout was signed over the weekend. Congratulations to Donald Trump and congratulations to Hakeem Jeffries for breaking the record for the longest speech before a big bill that didn't actually do jack or shit. So congratulations on that. South African Elon Musk, just in case you forgot, he starts a new political party called the America Party. How long did it take you to think of that one, Elon? Fucking genius. And Tesla stocks continue to plummet here in America and abroad. The Felford Award goes to all of the MAGA freaks out there that think that Donald Trump was not in the Epstein file. Got a couple of interesting articles, some videos, and a lot of MAGA hot takes. Oh boy. Netanyahu meets with Donald Trump at the White House to discuss the new Gaza Beach resort. Wow. Let's see. Donald Trump, he has a new tariff extension. It was going to be on Wednesday, but we got a lot of deals coming, and maybe by August, and we'll have to see about that. It's going to be amazing. The big beautiful bill that said that you were going to not have any tax on your Social Security, maybe not. And a federal judge approves to send 8 men to the South Sudan prison. Wow, we're going there, folks. We are absolutely going there. Concentration camps here and abroad. And the New York Times cites a racist in a hit piece against Mondami. So, like I said, we got a lot of stories and much, much more. If you wouldn't mind, please liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate that. It helps me out a lot and doesn't cost you anything. And if you like, I'll dance at your wedding. So, all right, let's get to it. We've got I guess the biggest story was on July 4th. The holiday, there was a huge flood in Texas. And let's take a look at some of the footage and what's been going on.
Are dimming for finding survivors from the flash floods that devastated Central Texas on July 4th. At least 95 people were killed in some of the deadliest floods to hit this country in decades. That includes 28 children. More than 850 people have been rescued since the floods first hit, but dozens are still unaccounted for, including at least 10 young girls. William Brangham begins our coverage with this report.
Days after the deluge, the Guadalupe River was quiet today, but the damage it wrought over the weekend is visible everywhere. What once were entire campgrounds along its banks, gone. Locals are still coming to grips with the terror they experienced.
There was a little boy who started floating downstream, and he was screaming, asking for help. I was about to jump in, and my husband had to hold me back. He said, "You're going to go too, and there's nothing you can do if you jump in." I didn't know how I was going to live with that. And thankfully, by the end of the day yesterday, I saw his face online, and he had been rescued.
Officials this morning said the huge search for other survivors is still underway.
This is a massive field that is happening. And again, this is unprecedented flood events. So we are still currently in the primary search phase.
This will be a rough week. Primary search continues, and we remain hopeful every foot, every mile, every bend of the river.
Through the weekend and into today, hundreds of volunteers, from ex-military to local civilians, as well as state and federal teams, joined the effort.
Seeing all the devastation and the trees and the clothing, the random bits of flotsam floating around the river really hits home. So that gives quite a somber feeling to just be out here seeing it in person rather than just on the news.
The floods tore through the Texas Hill Country on Friday the 4th. An overnight downpour caused the Guadalupe to rise a staggering 26 feet in a very short period. This time-lapse shows how suddenly the waters rose, swallowing a causeway in a matter of minutes.
If you had seen what July 3rd looked like, you will never guess that this was coming that night. Cars were floating away with the lights on. You could see the lights and you can hear honking. And there was like not one or two, but there were dozens of vehicles just floating away. And I was just, it was just too much.
This area is home to a number of children's summer camps. For a century, girls have flocked to Camp Mystic on the banks of the river. Today, the camp confirmed 27 members of its tight-knit community were killed, mostly young campers, like 8-year-old Sarah Marsh, as well as Mystic's longtime director, Dick Eastland. He was reportedly swept away trying to rescue children. Other victims include 68-year-old Jane Ragsdale. She devoted her life to another nearby girls' camp, Heart of the Hills. The camp had been between sessions on Friday when the flood hit. And 62-year-old Tanya Berwick, whose car got caught in the torrent on her way to work. Her son said she had a heart of gold. And 27-year-old Julian Ryan was killed trying to escape his trailer home. His fiancée, mother, and 6-year-old son survived. Questions are swirling about preparedness and why more urgent flooding alerts didn't come sooner. The flood-prone Kerr County had contemplated a warning system, complete with river gauges and sirens, for nearly a decade. But some local officials said costs have always gotten in the way.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot more about this. It kind of reminds me about what happened with Texas during that big winter storm that Ted Cruz, or I like to call him Fled Cruz, went to Cancun. And it was like a decade before. The windmills that comprise about 10% of Texas's energy were frozen over. And they said that they were going to do something to mitigate that so they wouldn't freeze over for the next time. And then 10 years later, it happens again, and they decided not to spend the money. So I'm hearing a lot more of that these days. Let's see. This is CNN covering some of the same stuff here.
Texas in Kerr County. Camp Mystic just released a statement about its campers and counselors. Let's get right to CNN anchor Pam Brown, who is nearby for the latest. Pam, what are you hearing?
This is the first time Camp Mystic is releasing a statement with a number of deaths. And in this statement, John, Camp Mystic says it is grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors following the catastrophic flooding on the Guadalupe River. The statement goes on to say, our hearts are broken alongside our families that are enduring this unimaginable tragedy. We are praying for them constantly. We have been in communication with local and state authorities who are tirelessly deploying extensive resources to search for our missing girls. We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of support from community, first responders, and officials at every level. We ask for your continued prayers, respect, and privacy for each of our families affected. May the Lord continue to wrap his presence around all of us. 27 young souls, these young campers, John, and young counselors. Remember, these counselors are teenagers for the most part. Many of them jumped into action. They were heroes. But as we are getting from this statement, some died as well. Camp Mystic did not say how many of those 27 were campers versus counselors, but presumably the bulk of them are campers. And I just can't stop thinking, John, that it was just a little over a week ago that parents dropped their young children off to have the best 4 weeks of their life at Camp Mystic, a camp I attended 30 years ago. And now some of those same parents are going to the local funeral home to potentially identify their child. It's just beyond comprehension, the heartbreak here. You feel it all around. John?
It just has to be overwhelming to be there, Pam. And again, this statement from Camp Mystic is really the first time we have heard them address fatalities. They're grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors, I think confirming many of the worst fears that so many have been having there. Thank you for being there. Keep us posted. Obviously, this is developing, this news just coming in.
New reporting today the long-held concerns in Kerr County over the ongoing flooding threat there. Records show that even 9 years ago.
It says right there that it was 82 deaths. It's well over 100 at this point. This is like 10 hours old, so it's getting worse and worse as the hours go by.
The county started considering building an early warning system, flood warning system, with sirens to better alert residents. In 2016, one county commissioner, according to meeting notes, said that the county was probably the highest risk area in the state for flooding, adding, our system is quite simply pretty antiquated, also saying it's marginal at best. And then a follow-up meeting a year later saying we can do all the water level monitoring we want, but if we don't get that information to the public in a timely way, then this whole thing is not worth it. The county's top elected official said Friday they still don't have a warning system with sirens, and a local city manager then said this yesterday.
We know questions are being asked about the emergency notification, and while it is not the time to speculate, local and regional partners are committed to a full review of the events and systems in place. At the appropriate time, we will take clear steps to strengthen our future preparedness.
You know what? It kind of reminds me a little bit about mass shootings, where they are dealing with the aftermath of everything that's going on, and they're like, okay, well, there's really no time for investigations right now. Let's just have some thoughts and prayers. I mean, ultimately, look, I feel for everybody that's affected by this. You know, the entire state of Texas is in a real bad space right now, and I feel for the families, the parents. I saw a video of a guy who was out there on a kayak looking for his daughter. And keep in mind that FEMA has already been somewhat defunded, and by the end of the year, it's supposed to be completely eliminated. So what are we, I mean, it's basically saying that nobody's coming for you. Nobody's coming for you. You know, just get out there and go find your own kid. And then that's what this guy is doing. I mean, I would think maybe a year or two ago, if that guy was out there doing that, you know, somebody from FEMA would already be there doing it and then saying to them, you know, please stay in your homes or else you could be lost too. And now we're going to have to look for you and your kid. So, but, you know, that guy, I mean, he's the father of this young girl, and he's saying that I was talking to her on the phone and then they handed the phone off to somebody else and then the line went dead and that was it. And I haven't heard from him since, and I don't know if my daughter made it. And she probably is one of these, you know, a couple of dozen young children that die due to this. Just a personal anecdote. I was here in New York City for Sandy, the hurricane, and it was a perfect storm, no pun intended. You know, it was high tide, it was a full moon and a hurricane, and I watched the water come in because I was living in Lower Manhattan at the time, and I watched the water come in and crest up over the FDR and over Battery Park and come straight, you know, to my building. Within a matter of seconds, the water was hitting my building. And, you know, the entire first floor of my building was just gone. It was gone. So when you see water like that coming in like that, it is an unstoppable force. It's absolutely terrifying. I remember it was one of the scariest things that I'd ever seen in my life. And, you know, I can only imagine what it was like for these kids. At least I was in a building. These kids are in a camp, you know, with tents and stuff like that. And there were literally people in trees waiting for helicopters to come and get them. It's very troubling. This is Donald Trump being asked about what happened in Texas. And I got to say, his answers are pretty damn lackluster.
Okay. Are you investigating whether some of the cuts to the federal government left key vacancies at the National Weather Service or in the emergency?
By the way, if you can't hear that, because it is kind of, you know, he does love to do a chopper talk where nobody can hear anything, but she's asking about the agencies that he had cut. Now, NOAA has been cut, and the National Weather Service has been cut considerably. I did a video recently where a weatherman from Florida said that, you know, I am not going to be able to predict the weather like I have over the last 30 years because of the huge budget cuts to NOAA and to the National Weather Service. I mean, ultimately, this is right out of the Project 2025, getting rid of all government agencies and privatizing them. There's a company called AccuWeather who is waiting in the wings to take up all of the funding for the National Weather Service. They're going to keep defunding these services, these government services that do this stuff for free for us. They're going to continue to defund them until they don't work anymore. And then they're going to step back and they're going to point at it and they're going to go, see, government doesn't work for you. They don't tell you that they've been defunding it for years, but they're going to tell you that government doesn't work. We need to privatize it. And then here comes AccuWeather to come in and do it. I mean, you have no idea how much the weather service actually does for us, whether it's got to do with agricultural stuff, whether it's got to do with logistics, plane flights. They all have to accommodate what's going on with the weather, supply chains, grocery stores. I mean, there is so many things that are involved with the weather. And the National Weather Service is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year service that is provided for us by the government for free. And this woman asked, hey, do you think that cutting any of this stuff has had any ill effect on whether or not, you know, the warnings got out early enough to the people, you know, and National Weather Service and NOAA, you know, they're not being able to coordinate anymore. And when it comes to this type of thing, every second counts. So when you are cutting funding for these agencies, it does have an effect. Anyway, let's see what he has to say.
No, they did not. They did. I'll tell you, if you look at that water situation that all is, and that was really the Biden setup. That was not our setup, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either. I would just say this is a 100-year catastrophe, and it's just so horrible to watch.
Two things. One, that was a Biden thing. Dude, you've been in office for 6 months. When is it not going to be a Biden thing? But then he turns around and says, I wouldn't blame Biden for it. And then he follows it up with, this is a 100-year storm that doesn't happen. It's never happened. You know, we won't see this thing for another 100 years. But how many times are we going to have to hear this same story? It seems like 2-3 times every year we are hearing, oh, this is a 100-year storm. This is a 100-year fire. This is a 100-year this, that, and the other. It's happening every year, a couple of times a year. It's not been that long ago since Hurricane Helene came in and wiped everything out. And by the way, all the people from North Carolina who were getting funding from the Biden administration, when Trump took office, they were asking them, because it happened in December, and they were saying, hey, we still need funding for this stuff. You know, we got some funding, but we still need some more to continue with the rebuilding. And Donald Trump basically told them to go kick rocks. You know, and he's been talking about it for months now, just completely getting rid of FEMA altogether. I think does he say anything else about FEMA?
Visit Texas, Mr. President. Probably on Friday. We wanted to leave a little time. I would have done it today, but we'd just be in their way. Probably Friday.
Mr. President, have you been briefed on the ship that was hit in the Red Sea? Do you know if the Houthis...
No, that's the Red Sea. I think he says something at the beginning of this. Hold on.
In Texas. Kristi Noem has, as you know, been there, and will continue to be there. And we're working very close with representatives from Texas, and it's a horrible thing that took place. Absolutely horrible. So we say God bless all of the people that have gone through so much, and God bless the state of Texas.
That's basically just thoughts and prayers, folks. Thoughts and prayers.
Incredible place. Any questions, please?
President, are you still planning to phase out FEMA?
Well, FEMA is something we can talk about later. But right now they're busy working, so we'll leave it at that.
Oh, they're busy working, huh? You mean there's actually stuff for FEMA to do? Jesus Christ, man. I mean, these people are fucking morons. I swear to God, man. They will do anything to gut funding for services that we all need and use on a daily basis. You know, they'll say, oh, it's waste and this and that and the other. We need to get rid of the waste. The government is here for one reason and one reason only, to protect us. Foreign and domestic issues. But these guys don't believe that. They want to get rid of everything and have it privatized, which means that it will operate for profit, not for our service, which means that we will get less service and they will get more profit. This is pretty interesting. A Texas official blames the National Weather Service for the flood tragedy.
This morning, as the deadly floodwaters in parts of central Texas recede, growing questions about how the catastrophic rainfall seemingly caught this town by surprise.
Nobody saw this coming.
Before dawn on Friday, authorities say the Guadalupe River in Kerr County rose 26 feet in just 45 minutes.
We know that everybody wants more warning time.
Some local officials say the National Weather Service underestimated the extreme rain.
It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw.
The agency says an initial flood watch was issued Thursday afternoon. By 1:14 Friday morning, a flash flood warning was in effect in Kerr County. Hours later, around 4, that warning was upgraded to a flash flood emergency in parts of the county.
By the way, it said that the National Weather Service said that there was going to be a flash flood warning the day before. Why weren't those kids evacuated?
Alerting residents of imminent danger. Scrutiny also turning to the area's warning systems. The county's top elected official telling the AP it considered a flood warning like a tornado siren a few years ago, but, quote, the public reeled at the cost.
No, honey, the public didn't reel at the cost. The politicians reeled at the cost. The donors reeled at the cost. We're not spending money on the people. Fuck the people. We are serving our donors. That's how it works.
The flash flood emergency, just the latest unexpected weather disaster in recent years. In 2024, after making landfall in Florida, Hurricane Helene ravaged the southeast, killing more than 200.
We were not prepared for this.
The storm dumping rain on mountain towns like Asheville, North Carolina, resulting in a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding event. Weeks later, Hurricane Milton wreaked havoc across Florida. The storm intensifying at one of the fastest rates in history, leaving entire communities underwater. Back in Texas, hope fades into heartbreak, with so many lives swept away in the sudden storm waters.
Now, President Trump has issued federal resources and activated FEMA, which is an agency he has said he wants to eliminate. And Savannah, I spoke to a state legislator yesterday. They're out of session right now, but he told me there may be a role for state lawmakers here to review whether smaller counties like this have the resources they need to respond to disasters and issue the proper warnings.
I'll answer that for you right now. They don't. They don't. They don't have a fiat currency. They can't go print money. They can't make the money machine go burr. They cannot afford this stuff. State governments do not have the funds to handle natural disasters. That is why we need the federal government to handle these things. If we're going to be having 100-year catastrophes and disasters at least once a year, if not multiple times, we need the government to help fund these things. State governments can't handle this stuff, especially some of the poorer states. I mean, West Virginia had a flooding issue not too long ago either, and Donald Trump basically told them the same thing, and he did not declare it a disaster area, even though many people went missing and millions of dollars worth of property was completely destroyed, and he just told them, no, not going to do it, not going to do it. Anyway, well, hold on for a second here. Let's see. There's something else here. This is, I don't know why it keeps going back to that. Sorry. Project 2025 calls for breaking up of NOAA commercializing forecast operations. Project 2025 is the Conservative Heritage Foundation blueprint for the Republican administration. Trump has disavowed it. Remember when he was disavowing it, but you know, of course, Russell Vought, you know, his OMB, Office of Monetary and Budget, he basically just yes-ands the entirety of Project 2025. In 2022, when Trump gave a keynote speech at the Heritage Foundation, a heritage event in Florida, he said the organization would lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what the movement would do. Project 2025 includes about 4 pages on NOAA and the National Weather Service. That part was written by Thomas F. Gilman, who was an official in the Trump Commerce Department. The document describes NOAA as a primary component of the climate change alarm industry and said it should be broken up and downsized. It says it right there for you. The National Weather Service, one of 6 NOAA offices, provides weather and climate forecasts and warnings. The National Hurricane Center is part of the National Weather Service. Project 2025 would not outright end the National Weather Service. It says the agency should focus on its data gathering services, should fully commercialize its forecasting operations. That means they want to privatize it. They want AccuWeather to take over, and I guarantee you they will be making fucking bank on that. You have to understand, that we have been talking about climate change in America for, I don't know, since the 70s. They've been saying that man-made climate change due to carbon burning and fossil fuels has caused the climate to warm. And they have been denying it. And then, when finally they can't deny it anymore, then they'll say, oh, it's not man-made. And then when they finally say it's man-made, well, okay, well, maybe it is man-made, but there's really nothing we can do about it. So just don't worry about it so much. Stop stressing your pretty little head about it. And I'm sorry, folks. I just get really frustrated with the state of play when it comes to major climate events and our just lack of any desire to do anything about it. First, you deny that climate change is happening, and all of these events start becoming more frequent and more intense. And then you start to defund the government programs that help, to warn us and protect us about that kind of thing. And then you want to defund the aftermath, the cleanup with FEMA that comes in after the disaster and helps out. They are not here to help you. And to show you, and this is the kind of thing that breeds conspiracy. After years and years and decades of denying that this is the problem, we have major climate change issues, and they are affecting not just this country, but the entire planet over. You deny it, and it's right in your face. The answer is right in your face, but you keep not wanting to listen. Eventually, you're going to start getting conspiracies that try to explain it away. If you're not going to pay attention to the real cause of all of these disasters, look, I could sit here and talk about the fact that they're defunding FEMA and they're defunding the National Weather Service, but that is ultimately not the problem with this. The fact that this flood is happening and its intensity and its duration, that is due to climate change. And we ignore it at our own peril. And then you get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who come out and say, the Georgia lawmaker said the legislation, she's trying to pass legislation, weather modification bill. She says that she's trying to pass legislation that would resemble Florida Senate Bill 56, which was signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis in late June. The text makes it illegal for individuals to practice engineering and weather modification by imposing a $100,000 fine and 5 years prison sentence. The punishment would apply to cloud seeding. She's talking about chemtrails. That's what she's talking about. There was years and years ago, they tried to do, putting a little carbon dioxide into certain kinds of clouds that it would intensify rain, and it had a very marginal effect. They stopped doing it in the 80s because it really wasn't very effective and it was not working. What they were trying to do is help out places that are in droughts, seeing if they could scare up a little bit more rain for places that were having, drought issues. But it didn't work, so they stopped doing it back in the 80s. But that doesn't stop Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is what she had to say. We must end the disastrous and deadly practice of weather modification and geoengineering. God damn it, she is so dumb. She's so dumb. What did she say here? There was I'm introducing a bill that prohibits the injection, release, and dispersion of chemicals, chemtrails, and substances into the atmosphere for the express purposes of altering the weather, temperature, climate, or sunlight intensity. It would be a felony offense. She wrote on a post on Twitter on Saturday. I've been researching the weather modification. That's code for I looked on Facebook and I saw some posts. That's her research. And been working with the Legislative Council for months writing this bill. So this is the result of decades of pretending like climate change is not a real thing. You get this blockhead right here. You get Marjorie Taylor fucking Greene. She's a complete tool. Anyway, I'm real sorry about all of this. It is really sad. It is absolutely just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So many people have lost lives due to this, and I'm not trying to politicize this, but politics are all over this. When you're talking about cutting FEMA's funding, you're not going to be able to help out the people when the disaster happens. When you're cutting down on NOAA and the National Weather Service, you're not going to give people enough warning. And when you deny climate change for years and years and years and pretend like it's not happening, these 100-year storms, these 100-year fires, these 100-year droughts, these 100-year heat blooms, they are going to happen every year on a more and more regular basis. And I don't know if, when Trump goes away and we get, somebody else in office, I don't know if we're going to be able to turn this thing around. I mean, turning around climate change, that is up in the air at the moment. Many scientists are already saying that it actually might be too late. It doesn't mean that we can't continue to try to find new ways to mitigate this, i.e. solar panels, wind technology, geothermal, electricity, and maybe carbon capture. We should be developing these things and continuing to develop these things so we can help mitigate the worst of it. But the way Donald Trump and co. are running through this, you're pretty much ensuring that the worst is definitely going to happen, and we're just going to, have to, all of us have go bags, and if you're on the coast, make sure you have a canoe or a raft. What if you're in California and the whole state catches on fire? What are you going to do? Nobody is coming for you, folks. Nobody's coming for you. And Donald Trump, he just wants to privatize it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.